Welcome to another edition of Black Men Screaming. My name is Maurice Carver, Executive Director of Stride Incorporated and host of your show. I'd like to welcome all those people out there watching the BMSTV network around the country. I mean, when you look at that situation and you think about justice in America, I want to start off talking about something that's dear to my heart, and that's I always wondered to myself, where is the disconnect between those people that actually do most of the living and dying, the average everyday the blue collar worker? The law that was passed by Michigan stating that you can't use race as a preference for anything dealing with employment or education and things like that. You know, there's a song by Rockwell that says, "I always feel like somebody's watching me," right? I have no privacy. So privacy has been one of the major issues that have been going on with the Supreme Court. Welcome to this segment we like to call it "There's Something on Your Mind." And I have the pleasure to be joined with a spoken word artist, a rapper, a community activist, a brother who is thought-provoking. I mean, he is gifted and talented, and we are so glad to be able to have him on the show. Welcome to the show, brother LITESKIN.
Peace. Positive energy always causes elevation. Thank you very much for the forum. Thank you for the opportunity of this interview. Love what you're doing. Love the context of the show. So I'm ready to, go in.
Well, the thing is interesting is that most people don't realize, and especially during this time, during COVID, that music can be so uplifting and so inspiring, and also it can motivate us to do the things that we need to do. And your music certainly does that. It's very conscious music. It's a tribute to the ancestors, to the brothers, that came before you. And I'm really truly am honored to have you on the show. Now, first of all, LITESKIN is a name, but that name is an acronym. And what does that acronym stand for, my brother?
So LITESKIN is LITESKIN, stands for living it through every situation known in nature.
Okay. And why did you come up with that name? What motivated you to have that idea to come up with such a brilliant name?
Okay. Funny story. Real quick. I was playing in the Hoop It Up tournament. I'm not sure if you're familiar with those.
Yeah, I played in it, my brother. I played 3-on-3.
There you go. We probably played against each other. I was real young, about 16, 15, and we were playing in the Hoop It Up tournament, and we were playing in Brooklyn, as a matter of fact. Well, a team from Brooklyn. I'm from the Lower East Side. And while, getting to the wire, one of my teammates had a nice little jump shot, and they kind of went to double team him, instantaneously said, "Oh, wait, grab LITESKIN," which they were talking about me because we, the three of us were doing what we do, and kept the name. And then here it is, probably, I want to say 2-3 years down the line, I'm headed to school. I'm now in college. I'm on the bus, and it hit me, living it through every situation known in nature. So I actually, for whatever the reason, I felt like the name actually chose me, where usually it's, you choosing a name. And I had other names at that time, but that's the one that stuck with me. And I just love the fact that it spoke so true to who I was and everything I've ever been through in life. And I kind of felt like for you to face those and become victorious, you need to face that head on and deal with the fact that, I live through everything in nature, so LITESKIN was more than just a name to me.
Yeah, and your music is more than just the title. The words are so powerful, my brother. I mean, I was looking at Letter to Gil and All in One Body, and again, I mean, there's certain things that you say in those. That I said to myself, if you had a mind that was unopened, when you listen to this brother's lyrics, you start questioning the things that are around you. I think you even talked about Gil Scott-Heron and stuff, and you talked about the message to the messengers, and Gil Scott-Heron could be more clearer in there to try to get people to open their mind, just like you were doing, my brother.
Dear Mr. Gil Scott Heron, you became an audible hero when most were just stuck on heroin. Better men rose to the challenge. When you parted for that poetical palace, kings took sips from their chalice. Soldiers saluted your existence. You spoke to the educators and the misfits. So intricate with your idiosyncrasies, deliberate so idiots can be in sync and see. You planted a seed with that message to messengers. So I took heed and I let it register. So ahead of your time, artists today still recycle your lines. You defined the fact that greed got us declined, rejected by society, so we allow private agencies to color us blind. Lack of spines got us falling for anything. Makes sense of why we praise our enemies. Your energy could have sparked a movement where we fight for hours, put a stop to the abusement. Instead, we allow crumbs for soothing and let them move in at their leisure for their amusement. We become stupid. Since you passed, knowledge has been negated because our current orators seem conceptually constipated. We've been fumigating and pepper sprayed, so our vision is impaired, proven by what we say. Nowadays, everybody is little, not just by title. That's expected with our cross-dressed America-scared idols. Confusion is vital. Our people suicidal. Supposed leaders now twerk on front lines for some views. What are we to do to revitalize pride? Feeble sheep have become accidental spies. Maybe the revolution will be televised because they introduced Facebook Live. LITESKIN 1, 2, 3. LITESKIN 1, 2, 3.
And with letter to Gil, you know, there's a lot of symbolism in there. Talk to us about that, and what was the true message you were trying to get out to people?
Okay, so letter to Gil is definitely a ode to Gil Scott Heron. It's kind of like an open letter. One, various reasons. One was thanking him for what he was doing at the time. I think he was way ahead of his time, and even if you listen to stuff now that he did, you know, before his passing, just to know the empowerment and the enlightenment that he was putting into his messages. So it was to thank him, and at the same time, kind of respond to what, you know, where he said the revolution will not be televised. I kind of answered that, but with the new twist to the current era that we're currently going through. But at the same time, spoke upon various issues and various underlining and overlining situations that we have that are, impacting us, and for the most part, affecting all of us, especially those of color. So there's a lot of stuff, like when you read through, you know, that's why I kind of put the lyrics on the screen too for the video so that people can see, not only hear, but I'm very big on wordplay and lyrics. And I think I'm trying to bring it, for the most part, my main goal is to bring it back to that, to the skill level and talent of lyrics. So when you watch Letter to Gil, there's a lot of stuff in there that you get to break down.
Yeah, and one of the things that I thought was also important was you know, the lyricism in All in One Body. I was like, wow. I watched that like 5 times, my brother.
Yeah, thank you.
I said to myself, this brother is really truly gifted. And you know, I remember, like, you know, the old school people like Dead Prez.
I am the one dominant son of 2 gods that have fallen victim to mishaps. The eternal burning flames, and my antonyms are nonsense and riffraff. Speak powerfully. Strength is my only matrix. While all your so-called messiahs get brain twisted at the basics. Caress hearts and spoken tongues. Thoughts cause earthquakes and typhoons. Words illuminate your every darkness. I'm the one who lit your full moons. My intellect outshines all of your gold and precious treasures. And the only reason your summers are so hot is because of my body temperature. I am a human magnet for all truth and intelligence. I made love to Mother Nature, and we created 4 elements: earth, fire, water, wind. Satan came to me as a female serpent. We gave birth to sin. I am the measuring stick for all of your holy men. God and I made up commandments, but he got tired after 10. I wrote the Constitution at a time of writer's block. Time is a no man's essence, so I created the first clock. I took the Statue of Liberty to the prom. That's why her hand is raised. There was a best couple competition, and we won first place. I planted the first seed that had hippies hugging trees. My creators trained me with encyclopedias to teach me how to read. The planets, they were nothing more than marbles I used to play with as a baby. And to make life more challenging, I constructed a reservation called Hades. It was a steam room where I used to relax. Now it's a residence for all those who commit evil acts. I blueprinted the Underground Railroad and freed many slaves. Had a cipher with Confucius and Einstein and left their minds in a daze. I spoke for days and gave a speech. I have a dream. I taught Betsy Ross how to stitch the first flag seam. I died and came back as Malcolm X and Tupac. But you didn't understand my knowledge. That's why I got shot. When I started the rumor about apocalypse, everybody thought I was bugging. But when I spoke on Revelation, I really wasn't bluffing. At one time, I was Medusa's barber. I gave her a fade, then took her hair to the United Snakes parade. I taught Mozart the tricks to the trade and turned them classical. I gave the talent of art to Van Gogh and Picasso. Is it possible? Just ask Michelangelo. He overheard me speaking about women to Romeo and Othello. I had a meal with the 12 disciples, but it was just breakfast. That same night, Judas was wearing a rope for a necklace. Oh, in the Grand Canyon, that's just my burial ground. And they'll cover it with golden sands when I decide to lay down. So you may be wondering, where has he been? Right now, I live in the body that's known as LITESKIN. LITESKIN, 1, 2, 3.
But let's also talk about the thought-provoking aspect that you have out there pertaining to your music and pertaining to your community and trying to inspire people. You have this SoundMinds podcast that's going on, man.
Yes.
And I watched probably about 30 minutes of the first one, and I really enjoyed it. Unfortunately, I don't get a chance to watch as much as stuff because I'm always moving on with my show, trying to do so many things. But I'm telling everybody that's out there, all my BMSTV family from the Brooklyn Bridge to the San Francisco Gate Bridge, you need to check out SoundMinds Sunday podcast.
Thank you,
my brother.
Thank you very much.
You have 2 brothers that are joining you there. So talk to me a little bit about SoundMinds podcast and what your brothers are doing, because really you bringing the truth, to be honest with you.
Not a problem. Not a problem. So SoundMinds, give you a brief history. SoundMinds is a collective unit of talented MCs and artists. We've been doing shows. We were doing shows probably 20 plus years now. For the most part, we used to hold down shows in CBGB's, which was known for rock and roll. And, they gave us a spot on a monthly basis just because of what we were doing. And honestly, we kind of were part of the movement of the original freestyle competitions and all that. So SoundMinds is a collective unit of MCs, artists, producers, and so on and so forth. And as you see, this is the sweater, SoundMinds. So what we did, the beauty of all things, right? When you become powerful based off of challenges. We are currently quarantined and COVID kind of got us. And honestly, we were just like, you know what, why not come out with a platform where we can create true messages? So we just started it 2 weeks ago. The first episode was on accountability, just holding ourselves accountable, just holding, police, EMTs, and whoever it is, just accountable. The word accountability is so big and grand. And then just this past Sunday, we actually did an episode on messages and music. So just kind of like what are not only us, but our youth are hearing, how their brains are being kind of manipulated and built to not withstand or try to become strong. Is just more so weakening. So, kind of like going back to Gil Scott-Heron, what he said in Messages and Messages, you really, when you listen to messages is one of those kind of like, hey, I'm giving you the tools for you to self-reflect and understand that what you're doing might be actually hurting us. So we need to do more. So that's what SoundMinds Sundays is every Sunday, 7 p.m. For the most part, you can follow me on social medias and all that. And if you like it, would love for you to share it, subscribe, and get the message out there, because that's what we're doing. We're kind of, in a sense, being the verbal or lyrical, Harriet Tubmans, and we're just trying to really bring forth a certain type of strength or a certain type of structure to our mentality and way of thinking so that we can strengthen our people rather than continuously weaken.
Yeah, you know, the thing I loved about the first episode was especially when you talk about accountability. And
Yes.
accountability is very important, especially in the time of COVID, because, you know, we don't know what's going on with this thing. We get a lot of information from a lot of different sources and things, but we need to be accountable because we're bringing that back home to our own people. You know what I'm saying? And that
Right,
is a
right,
thing that I'm so concerned about.
right.
First of all, I want to ask you also, how are you doing, my brother? How are you and your family doing right now?
We're adapting. We're adapting. I think for the most part, when you have family, you know, things are a little different when you have family opposed to when you're kind of alone. You know what I mean? And double-edged sword. I think for the most part, we're adapting. It is. I have, you know, young daughters. I have, you know, wife, and it's just the constant conversations of trying to explain what's going on in this world when, you know, you are kept within your household and withheld from, you know, just being human or normal, you know. And so I think mentally, spiritually, I think that's one of the biggest battles. Physical, you know, as long as you stay away from people, they say, based off of what they're saying,
Yeah.
you should be good. But, you know, I think that the real battle is really the mental and the spiritual, where it's just kind of like, this is not what life was intended to be or what we intended it to be. So I think to answer your question, we're doing great. You know, it's kind of, you know, scary at times. You never know when you're going to get the text messages from other family members, and you know, and I definitely have been receiving that from people that I grew up with, family and their parents and so on and so forth. So many people are passing away. So it's scary, but at the same time, I think that we need to strengthen ourselves more than ever. And one of the hashtags I put out there at all times is we need us. More than ever, we need us right now.
You know, there's a quote by this guy named Malcolm Muggeridge, and he said every happening, great and small, is a parable whereby God speaks to us, and the art of life is to get the message.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I agree with that.
Yeah, and I wondered to myself, I mean, you know, what is the message that we're going to take out of this COVID-19 experience, my brother? Black and brown communities are being devastated. It was
Yes.
we talked about on my show previously how it started out in the white community, then it jumped to the black community, and then it jumped into the Latino community. Latinos are being destroyed by this in communities of color and blacks, but the number for Latinos is even higher than blacks. When especially in the city of New York. Do you like how the media has been betraying a lot of us in communities of color being irresponsible? I don't particularly care for it.
Right. I got to be honest with you. I have my theories in regards to why we're being affected so much. You know, and I think for the most part, this, as we know it now, has been a buildup for many years. As we go through the whole, you know, when you look at our neighborhoods, or the poorest of the poorest neighborhoods have a high rate of asthma, have a high rate of diabetes, have a high rate of a lot of things. And I think, honestly speaking, they kind of already had some things in motion before this actually came out. So I'm not going to get into much into that unless you want to. But I think, you know, growing up in the Lower East Side, I know that certain bridges were being worked on for years that definitely created more asthmatic situations and more people to get sicker. So there's that, right? So that is why I feel like the number is so high for us, people of color, black and brown. Now, in regards to my message to ours, is be aware. Keep your eyes open at all times. And I'm not talking about the two things that you look at with, you know, it's just more so the eye within your mind and the eye within your brain to see things for what they are. And truth of the matter is, I don't at all. I think it's disgusting the way we are kind of portrayed. And, you know, there was a situation in which accountability came from a situation that happened in the Lower East Side with a police officer and you know, one of my youth, you know, young man got slapped and a knee put to his neck and you know, abused. And that's where accountability came from. And all I can say is at that same time, during that time that that's happening in my neighborhood of the Lower East Side, right by in Lower West Side, or not too far from the Lower East Side, there was a whole bunch of people who were just out there, no masks, bare feet on grass, and just laying next to each other, no type of harassment, no type of being booked, no type of being arrested or in any way abused. And I think when you start looking at those things, truth of the matter is, I think that this situation has now allowed for more aggression and for more targets to be put out there on our people. And, I don't think in any way, shape, or form it's right. So it's our duty to find out how we can empower us to become more united, because only in unison can we really move and mobilize the best way possible. So to answer your question, no, I definitely do not at all appreciate the way, my people are being looked at and being put out in the news. And then when there's spots in Brooklyn, there's a whole bunch of spots in Brooklyn right now where when you see the video of certain people congregating together, having school, having all types of things, the difference between those that are black and brown opposed to, the difference between those who are not, totally different. They're being handled differently, and I, for the most part, I'll be honest, I'll just be outright and say it. The Orthodox Jews, no disrespect to them, but the way their community is being handled in regards to their congregating and how they're getting together, in no way is at all equivalent to the way our people are. So when they see about 2 or 3 of our people, or even see a young lady in the train station walking with her daughter and being harassed and grabbed up by 12 police officers while her little 2-3-year-old daughter is watching that, but then you see hundreds of Orthodox Jews together in one spot, but not even being spoken to in a high volume, there's questions about that. There's a whole bunch of questions there, and you got to ask those questions and say, why is this happening?
Yeah, I mean, it's we already know the answer to that question.
Right.
Gil Scott haven't talked about that, right? So we already know the answers. We just have to be able to actuate put into effect the answers. And the thing I love about again, going back to your wonderful music, is that right. Is we're gonna play another piece of one of your songs. I want people not just to vibe on the music, but listen to the lyrics. Right, listen to the lyrics and let them speak to your soul. Because I was talking to another person in the interview, LITESKIN, and we were talking about the importance of music and why. Right. And people say, well, why is music important? Mm-hmm. Because music is like the music. What they say, music is like the soundtrack of your life. I mean, that corny statement or whatever. But the thing is, I connect music to so many different aspects of things in my life, and I think that is important to get out to people. Whatever they would do this time, you're being able to take care of yourself mentally and physically is very important, and music helps you to do that.
It is the universal medicine. If you go back to the days of the Creoles, right, or even back to the days of slavery, when people, when the slaves were out on the plantation, a lot of the way they got through their day was singing. And through that singing, there was a lot of messages. There was a lot of messages that were being kind of sent through that music and through that, just the harmonizing. And I think it is our responsibility as artists, as, hip hop artists, spoken word artists, the rappers, I kind of differentiate the two just because of the dilution of the culture and what rap has become. But, my responsibility is to definitely get a message out, even if it's like, for the most part, there's a lot of challenges on social media, and they'll do like musical challenges and everybody does it. And I make sure that whenever I do a challenge or whenever I put pen to paper, it needs to mean something. There needs to be a message. There needs to be some type of empowerment or enlightenment. And granted, my skill level and talents, I would never doubt those. And I could definitely, I have no problems going up against anybody else bar for bar. And it's just, but I'm doing different in the sense of, I feel like putting words together doesn't necessarily make you an artist. It just kind of most times makes you a tool. But putting words together that you can empower others through. And that's what art is all about. That's what music is all about. The universal medicine of music is when you're stressed, when you're happy, when you're sad, whatever it is, going through a loss or going through a victory, music is kind of like that theme where it kind of like gets you to that spirit of saying, wow, this song was definitely for me. So whenever I write, I make sure that whatever I do, it has to have a spearheaded target, and it has to definitely say something in it. So somewhere along the lines of the bars, you're going to find something that touches you and says, damn, I got to self-reflect, or I got to change this, or I got to do better, or we got to do better. So that's always been my goal whenever I put pen to paper. For the most part, I have about 23, 24, 5+ years of working with youth. Started as young, with the, for the most part, when we were doing the summer youth, working with the young ones, had braids. I was out there on the streets and all that, and I was definitely acting a fool out on the streets. But somewhere along the lines, when I was a young counselor, 14, 15, 16, even 17, really probably didn't hit me until like 18, 19, but around those young years when I was being questioned, like, hey, why do you do that? Oh, I like the way you do this, about the little ones. It kind of touched me in a different way. And I would say also a lot of that comes from my parents. My father was, for the most part, an immigrant from Peru, was a taxi driver. And, every day before he went to work, he had the whole neighborhood. He was like a father to everybody out there. He was our baseball coach. He was, and every day we were out there playing baseball. And my mother would always be one to give and constantly take in. There's a couple of people who I grew up with that were going through situations, and she would let them stay in the house just until they got right with their parents or with their situation. So I think a lot of what I've seen through them, I mirrored in a different way. And so once again, I think this field, social service, kind of chose me. Moved up from the Lower East Side, not too long ago, and now I'm working with the population of those who are on probation. And I'm still trying to give back to my youth, but now I'm also giving back to a different population. And a lot of that may very well be because of my brother, who passed away, but he did a lot of years inside. And I always felt like if he had somebody to listen to him, or for him to listen to, his life would have been different. He was my older brother. So I think every time I look at any client that I deal with, I see them, or I see him in them, and I see them in him. So my whole life has always been dedicated on giving back, being a community advocate, fighting for what's right, fighting for our streets, but especially Lower East Side and gentrification and everything that's been going on through every borough. Nobody's immune to it. And so my whole life has always been dedicated to giving back. The sad truth is that historically speaking, that's always been the case, right? As a matter of fact, I definitely touched on it in Messages and Music in our podcast on Sunday. People of color, or in general, different people have always been brought in for different reasons, right? And it's just kind of like, for the most part, when you bring in a certain people to do a job that you wouldn't do, or that is dangerous, and it's just kind of like, for the most part, we're all seen as very much open for death and plague and sadness and
disposable people.
Exactly, disposable. That's the perfect word for it. I was searching in my brain. Disposable. So when you are disposable to anybody, the numbers start to make more sense, because you're just like, okay, cool. You're bringing in a certain people. So if they pass away, or if they get sick, or whatever it is, and here we are, our people, we're usually behind the 8 ball. We're usually trying to find a way to survive and feed our family. So it's just like, no, they're going to do it. They're definitely going to do it because they need the money. They need the tools. So when you bring that type of mentality and say, well, disposable people is what we're looking for to get the job done, it is amazing what we as supposed disposable, or even the word
surplus,
funny, the word
population,
surplus, right? But also minority. The word minority, the strength in words says a lot.
I
right?
don't even like that word, man, because we ain't minorities.
Exactly.
I'm not a minority.
There's
not
nothing minor about us. Right. There's nothing minor about us. But the fact that when you think historically how we've been kind of programmed or trained mentally, we see ourselves as very much belittled and ready to be more belittled, because it's just kind of like, well, that's just norm. So to answer your question, when you see all the Latina women, you know, the Latinas and the Black women and so on and so forth, and our people out there doing the grunt of the work and not being respected for it, it's only because we're that easily disposable to people. Now, if we were to flip that, join in unison, right? I don't know if I'm pretty sure you remember the movie Warriors back in the day.
Yes.
Warriors was powerful in the sense of what was happening, or what Cyrus was trying to do was bring every, you know, every riff-raff,
every faction together, right?
Bring them together and provide that platform of strength and unison. So when we start thinking on that scale of things, and we could go down the line of Black Panthers, the Young Lords, Tupac Shakur, all these people, everybody in one way or another, we're trying to bring a united front. You become a threat to the system, and to, you know, regards to the Latina woman and the Black women and just our people doing this grunt work. It sucks to see it, but then it's just kind of like, okay, cool. So what do you do to provide for your family? And that's when our own, who are in the upper echelon, making certain financial brackets, have to provide jobs for us. Stop looking within. You know, it happened with football. You know, it happened with the NFL in regards to how we were supposed to be boycotting, and everybody was like, "Nah, we're boycotting." And I was sitting there boycotting. I'm a diehard Giant fan, and I'm sitting there not watching no games. And then Super Bowl comes, and all of a sudden, I see certain celebrities out there celebrating with the same presidents that they were boycotting. So it kind of mentally and visually, you start to see what really it is to front as if you're unified and what unification really looks like. But yeah, it hurts. It hurts the heart. You know what I mean? Because I know, truth of the matter is, I come from a lineage of people that are powerful. I come from a lineage of people that are strong. And to, for the most part, not respect us as people, as human beings, and only see us as being disposable, or only those that are going to do certain jobs. It'll be amazing if people just to sit there and see us all human. We all bleed the same blood. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what you wear, no kind of uniform, no kind of anything, no kind of religion. We're all human. And until we get to that level of thought, we're always going to be where we are.
You see why you watch Black Men Screaming? For intelligent conversation with intelligent people. We'll be back with more of it in just a moment.